Hi, everybody, and welcome to the SCO Show on Mile High Sports, your Colorado Buffaloes show. And I'm Shawn Drotar. The man over there is Chase Howell. Chase, joining us from Florida. Thanks for making the trip from a virtual standpoint, representing the Buffs out there in the Sunshine State. How's it going?
Yeah, that's right. It's late here. We have to record a little bit later, hit 2 hours ahead. I don't know how they watch sports on the East Coast time zone.
They don't. They don't. You know, we talk about something called East Coast bias, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why. It's not necessarily a bias. It's just because it's late, and a lot of people don't stay up late enough to watch anything in the Western two time zones, and so that's why you end up getting all the coverage of just the Eastern teams. Dirty little secret, right? You hear East Coast bias. It's real, but what it really means is a lot of people in sports just can't stay up late enough.
It's technically still prime time. Like I think it would be the first quarter of the NFL Sunday night game. Yet it feels like everybody's going to bed around here. So
yeah, wow. I see. Look at that. What a tease! Prime time. You're talking about prime time out in Florida, and here we are talking about the Colorado Buffaloes and the spring game coming up this Saturday. We'll talk about the game in particular, but the part that is getting the most attention is the fact that Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders are having their jerseys retired now. This is a little bit fraught here because the Buffaloes, who've been playing for around 130 years, have, if I'm not mistaken, 3 retired jerseys. Okay, it's not very many, and when you're adding 2 to the 3 that are already there, it's obviously going to be a bit controversial, especially since when you talk about the 1990 national championship team, there is no one there that's retired. There are a lot of players that have had great careers, that have had great 4-year careers that aren't necessarily retired. I guess I look at this and I am, on one hand, you know, we're not talking about monumental things that change the world or the state of the program, but it does have it feels a little weird to me. How about you?
Yeah, I think odd timing is probably the right way to put it. I think it probably surprised a lot of people, even a lot of CU fans, when they put out that notice that they're going to retire the 2 numbers during the spring game. It doesn't take away that Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders probably are deserve to get their jersey retired. It just is a little bit odd. You don't see it really in any sport, in any professional sport, for your jersey to be retired that quickly. Maybe we might see it with a guy like Alex Ovechkin, who just set the scoring record for the Capitals. But you have to be really, really good to immediately get your jersey retired. Usually you see it over the course of a few years. They decide to have the retirement ceremony. Travis Hunter, second Heisman Trophy winner at Colorado. I think obviously his number should be retired. Shedeur Sanders seems to be the big debate that's going on online, but he has broken over 100 passing records at CU. He's arguably the best CU quarterback of all time, depending on how much you take into account winning football games. But in terms of passing quarterback, he's probably the best passing quarterback that CU has ever had. So they're 2 guys that I think it's deserving to retire their numbers. It's very odd timing, and to just kind of do it this quickly, you do it a week ahead of time. Usually there's a little bit of a buildup towards it. So I just think it feels a little rushed, and I don't know. Whatever Coach Prime does, it doesn't necessarily surprise me these days.
It doesn't, but you know, I'll be completely honest about this. I made it clear over the course of the year that I thought if Travis Hunter, with everything he's done, also wins the second Heisman Trophy in Colorado football history, which he did, I would argue, yes, that's a jersey I retire. I have no problem putting him up there in the luxury boxes with the other numbers. I really don't. I think given the body of work, given the Heisman, given the fact that he won the Heisman by doing something that in modern college football nobody does, that was worthwhile. I would have waited as well. I think generally there's a waiting period for that. And there's a couple of reasons there's a waiting period. You want to build anticipation. You want to be able to let the other alums come out and celebrate it. You want it to be a big deal. But there's also the idea that you would like a little time to pass after someone's career, and you'd like to be able to let it sit in a historical perspective. This feels rushed. It feels to a certain extent frivolous. And I think it actually, by accident, diminishes a little bit of Hunter's impact. I think if we were to come back at, say, 2029 or 2030, right, after a 5-year waiting period, and bring Travis Hunter back and think about all those amazing memories and all those amazing, I think it would have been more impactful. This ends up feeling like it's just something thrown together. And I think, unfortunately, it's not as special. the drawback on the Shedeur Sanders situation is, well, you kind of hit it when you're talking about winning football games, and I understand and agree that winning games is not a quarterback stat; that's a team stat. But in 2 years, he did accomplish a lot of things. He's the all-time leading passer in touchdowns for the Buffaloes, even though he was 2 years out of the other top guys in the top 7. All of them were 4-year guys. The accomplishments statistically were remarkable, but we're also talking about a lot of good Buffalo teams in the past, including that 1990 national championship team that nobody's jersey is retired from. And quite frankly, I would have put Shedeur Sanders somewhere else. When you are sitting in Folsom Field and you're looking to the west, you're looking to the Flatirons, and you see the press box and you see some of all the working press and all that sort of stuff, you see a lot of names, right? You see Chad Brown, you see Kanavis McGee, you see Alfred Williams, you see Dion Figures, you see an Eric Bieniemy, you see all these greats in CU history that are already on there, kind of like a ring of fame, right? The Broncos have a ring of fame as well. It doesn't mean all those jerseys are retired. The Broncos don't have more than a handful of jerseys retired as well, just Floyd Little's, John Elway, and then number 18 for both Peyton Manning and Frank Tripucka. But when you look at this, it feels to me as if Shedeur Sanders probably doesn't deserve to have his jersey retired when you're talking about 3 and 130 some years. And that is not a condemnation of Sanders' career. I would put him with all those other Buffs greats, including those guys that won the national championship. I think he belongs over there. I really do. But I don't think the jersey retirement is quite the same thing. And I hope, I don't know, but I hope that wasn't sort of a wink, wink, nod, nod thing to get Deion Sanders' new contract pushed across the finish line.
Now we're getting a little tinfoil hat, but I mean, there is something that is a little bit weird about this whole situation, and I think there's plenty of Bucs fans that are a little bit uncomfortable about the whole thing. And yeah, I think you can debate Shedeur, but it's Travis Hunter. I think what Travis Hunter has accomplished here, and then to always just tie the two together and do everything together, I think takes away from the second Heisman Trophy winner in Colorado history. So the whole thing, I think most of us Bucs fans that have been around here for a while, I think it just had made us a little bit uncomfortable, and that's why we're so surprised about it. And you hear a lot of past Buffs that have spoken up about it. But when you make the point about nobody on that 1990 team getting their jersey retired, like why not? I feel like Eric Bieniemy should have his jersey retired, or an Alfred Williams. I don't know why, but maybe it had to do with off the field stuff. Like we see a guy like Byron Wizard White, who one of the most famous CU football players of all time, but it wasn't just what he did on the football field. It was because he was a multi-sport athlete. He ended up in the Supreme Court. He's a very special Buffalo.
Yeah.
And it seems like just what they did on the football field wasn't all that they were looking at when it came to retiring these numbers in the past, which might be why you don't see somebody from this 1990 team. But I think they probably should have retired a few more numbers. And I think college football is a little bit different from the NFL, because NFL has specific numbers that players can wear. And I know that's changed a little bit with like wide receivers being able to wear single digit and whatnot. But college football, you can wear the same number if you're on offense as somebody on defense on the other side. So there's a lot more numbers available in this sport. So I don't think it's as big of a deal as NFL. But all in all, Shawn, yeah, I do agree with you. And I think if they just kind of did both of these guys wrong by doing this. So
yeah, that's the problem. Is I don't know. I don't know who it really looks good for. Danny Bailey and I were talking about this, obviously, when I'm also the host of Mile High Sports Today every weekday. And Danny and I were talking about that. Danny produces that show as well as this one, that a jersey retirement should basically be no doubt, right? Like everybody understands, you're like, of course you retire that jersey. It's John Elway. Obviously you retire that jersey. Floyd Little for the Broncos, the first ever star. Obviously that is a guy that you bring in. And for the Buffs, I think it's a little trickier, especially when you have a couple options. And you're right. I think by doing this quickly, it invites questions. And I think that was probably a mistake. Look, the Buffs didn't need to do anything to get more attention for their spring game. And so that's where I think you're right. It doesn't elevate Hunter as much as he should. And instead of in Shedeur Sanders' case, and the argument you make is one that I think is kind of compelling, Chase, the idea that they kind of go in as a pair because maybe they're representing an era of Colorado Buffaloes football, this era of rebirth. And maybe that's the plan. And that actually, I think, has some merit and some logic, but it would actually be more impactful a couple years down the road. And that's where I think it's a problem. When you have some of the all-time best buffs kind of complaining about this, going, this doesn't feel right to me, doesn't feel fair. That's where you wonder maybe there's a bit of a misstep. And maybe going forward, the Buffaloes program looks at it and said, you know what, if we ever do another jersey retirement, because we don't do it very often, maybe we need to say, hey, we have a 5-year waiting period at minimum before we retire jerseys. That solves that.
Let me ask you a question because I'm a little bit younger than you, but you probably remember it better than me. What was the reaction when the Avs decided to retire Ray Bork's number?
Depends on who you're talking to, because I'm glad you brought that up. I was one of the guys that looked at it and said, like, I wouldn't do it. I get it. They won a cup with Ray Bork. Ray Bork is an all-time player, one of the greatest defensemen in the history of the sport. But he played for basically a year and a half with the Avalanche. Does Ray Bork's jersey deserve to be retired? You bet. By the Bruins, who also retired it. But for the Avalanche, no. I mean, I think it's a special moment. There are certainly moments celebrating Ray Bork all over Ball Arena. There are murals, there are photos. There's photos that are larger than life size all over the place, and it should be remembered. But no, I look at it and think, no, Ray Bork should not be retired as a Colorado Avalanche. That's safe for the Joe Sakic's and the Peter Forsbergs, the Patrick Waugh, these guys that built it and played massive parts, if not all of their career, like Joe Sakic, in Avalanche uniforms, not the guys who were there for just a short amount of time. I do think when you retire a jersey, unless it is something so absolutely unquestioned, like what Travis Hunter has done, I think longevity has to count. I do. And I think that's probably part of what's controversial here.
Yeah, I did too. I think either longevity or you do bring in winning and maybe a national championship.
Yeah, I mean, if this team got to the national championship game or something this year, okay, then we have a different discussion. But it is what it is. Look, in the end, it's a tempest in a teapot. Hunter deserves to be there. Everybody knows Hunter deserves to be there. You can argue over Shedeur Sanders as much as you want. That's kind of what makes sports fun. But it is happening. What also is happening, of course, is these two guys are moving on to the NFL. Their numbers are going to be retired. The school year isn't even finished, and they haven't been into the NFL yet. So it's a little quick. I don't care how you want to slice it and dice it. It's a little quick, but reality comes at you quick too. And for the Buffaloes, transfer portal opened up today. It's already opening up in the spring situation. And now we have a scenario in which a couple departures for the Buffs, impactful on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, that definitely. Maybe a couple of surprises of some outgoing guys, but we know that CU is going to be very much involved in the transfer portal this summer. They're always looking to add. They have plenty of room to add as well. So they've already gotten themselves a little bit involved by a couple of additions, and I think I'm a little bit more surprised by the subtractions. Two very impact players in Taje McCoy and Isaiah Augustave, two guys that I think we were excited about. We were excited about going into this year. Taje McCoy has shown flashes, hasn't been a mainstay on the as an edge rusher on the defensive line, whatever you want to call it. But he is a guy that is younger. I think a guy that there was a lot of hype around going into the spring. And then Isaiah Augustave was obviously the number one running back going into the spring. So you can look at these two things as maybe a negative, but you can also look at them as a positive. We've talked a little bit about the running back depth on this show. I think it's definitely interesting that the top running back enters the portal. It might say something about some of those running backs behind him and the amount of playing time that he's expected to get. So we'll see. I don't know. What was your reaction to these two guys?
Surprising in both cases. I think McCoy actually, as you put it, showed flashes. He had his moments, and I thought that he was starting to be on the rise. Gustav, I mean, finished the season as the top running back and the guy that the Buffs relied on the most. So that's shocking. But where one person leaves, that's an opening. And if the top running back leaves, obviously, if you're a running back in the transfer portal, all of a sudden you've got to be going, there's a starting job sitting right there that maybe I could take. So for the transfer portal, a couple of additions already, but I do wonder also, if Augustave and McCoy, if the Buffs are going to be very aggressive in the transfer portal again, maybe in the long term, they maybe did them a favor by opening up some spots for someone else.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're definitely going to go hard for another running back. We've heard some good things about a couple of the running backs. I think Dallin Hayden much healthier this spring. He has shown some flashes. Everybody's talking about Brandon Hood, though, the little brother of Colton Hood, who redshirted last year as a freshman, came in as actually as a walk-on. I think he's expected to go on scholarship. He dealt with a torn ACL late in his high school career, and that's why he ended up here as a walk-on. But I'm a guy that people that have watched practice throughout the last month or so, seems like he has really shown a lot of flashes at running back. So I'm excited about Brandon Hood, Dallin Hayden. You still have Charlie Offerdahl, but I think they're going to go hard for a running back in the portal. They've already added a couple guys in the portal, not a running back yet, but Sincere Brown, a big wide receiver, big speedy wide receiver. He was teammates with a couple Buffaloes down in South Florida, and now he doesn't get to reunite with them, but obviously he gets to join Coach Prime. And yeah, I'm excited about Sincere Brown. They also got Xavier Hill, who is out of Memphis. Big dude. I think he played right tackle this past year at Memphis, but it sounds like he's going to slot in at guard. A guy that was highly sought after. Both these guys had SEC and big time offers in the transfer portal, and now I'm excited to see if they can add some more.
Deion Sanders has talked about how he believes this team might actually be more talented than last year's team, in part because they will be a lot better in the trenches. Obviously, that's how a football team still build, right? You have to build from the inside out. And so obviously, if they get better, they will get better on the whole, and it will make things more enticing for a potential running back to step in and replace Augustave. We want to get into the spring game, which will happen this weekend. Might be snowy yet again, but before we do that, of course, you see that in the corner, our friends at Peckish, you keep this going for us. And I'm getting hungry already. Tell us a little bit more about our friends at Peckish.
Yeah, I miss Peckish. There's no Peckish here in Florida, but there are two locations, one on the hill, one in Denver Tech Center, just off of Bellevue and I-25. Some of the best wings that you can get. We love their wood-fired pizza that you get at the location off of Bellevue. Beer, food, sports. It's about everything you can ask for. And, you know, a big friend of the Buffs. You walk into the Bellevue location and there's CU logos everywhere. Coach Prime has tried it. Shedeur Sanders has tried it. Travis Hunter. We've seen all of the boys hanging out at Peckish up on the hill.
A lot of
And
retired jerseys all of a sudden. Some big
that's
names.
right. Two
All-timers.
retired jerseys that
That's
love
right.
Peckish. So it's one of our favorite places to go. I'm sure we'll do a show there soon, and I wish I could have it in Florida.
Yeah, it's not quite the same, but we'll have you back here soon enough. Obviously, this weekend, the Buffaloes will get the black and gold spring game cooking, and much to everyone's chagrin, all of a sudden now the weather forecast has a significant amount of snow potentially for Boulder. But that aside, for the fans, a little bit of a downer for sure. That'll be 2 out of 3 years where the weather makes things a little bit complicated for the Buffs. But you know what? That's Colorado for you. And anyway, it looks really good in the snow. So when you talk about the idea of this,
that should be expected though with the Coach Prime spring game. I think they've all
should be now, right? Yeah.
I know last year it was like really rainy, but it felt like it was snowing out there. And the first time it was really snowing. So
yeah.
I don't know what Coach Prime has done for these spring games, if he's planning the wrong date, but that should just be expected at this point.
Yeah, and you know what? It's okay. It's Colorado. You play in the elements. You play outdoors. Football's an outdoor sport. Go ahead and do that. And the idea now, in this case, with this spring game, when you talk about what we can learn, right? What we can do, and what we can find a way to see on this team with the folks coming in. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on Caden Salter, the transfer quarterback from Liberty, and from the new addition, Julian Lewis, Juju, going to come in as a 5-star prospect from Carrollton out in Georgia. That's where most of the eyes are going to be at. But we're not going to see anything get solved this weekend in that spring game. What do you hope to see? Deion Sanders has said, and not surprisingly so, that as it stands today, Caden Salter has more experience and he's in the lead.
What do I hope to see? I think the number one thing that we all hope to see is health. And I heard Coach Livingston talk to the media the other day, and he said they're a little bit banged up on the defensive side, that it can even be hard to get 11 out there. So going into these types of games, you really never know who's going to play. They mix it around quite a bit. It's not like you're going to see the starters that you're going to see in the fall. And we've seen a lot of roster changes in the summer as well. So the best thing that we get from these games, I think, is just seeing the black and gold back on Folsom Field. And it's really hard to take any major takeaways. I think we always get excited to see some of the new guys that we've heard about all through spring practice that we really haven't gotten to watch much. Reggie Hughes has gotten mentioned at the linebacker position. I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see how much these cornerbacks have grown because Coach Prime has really talked about Colton Hood, DJ McKinney, even RJ Johnson has really shown a lot of flashes in the spring. This defense, I'm very, very excited about. So I'm excited to see some of the players that they have there. And yeah, I just don't think you really learn. It's a glorified practice. I think it's just fun to watch these guys fly around on the football field again. And it's always excited to see the black and gold on Folsom Field. But these spring games, they're a little bit overhyped.
They are. And you're exactly right. And that's why they tried to make something happen with Syracuse so you could get a real scrimmage, but the NCAA was too afraid to do that, although you watch. Next year, if not next 2 years from now, but next year, watch. It's going to be allowed and everybody's going to be doing it because unless the NCAA hates money in the NIL era, they're leaving money on the table. But you're right. It is a glorified practice. It's not even really a full-fledged scrimmage. There's not a lot of contact. There's no real organization to it at times. You know, they'll have downs. They have quarters per se, but the quarters aren't necessarily played out. Sometimes they get in the red zone and they'll just want to try things a few times. So anyone who's going up there, I think you'll enjoy it. But if you're expecting like anything like a game, it's not a game. It is essentially a practice that you can view, and also really the only one you can probably view all year. And the Buffs under Deion Sanders turned it into a show as well. But that's what it is. It's a show. It's entertainment. It's anticipation. It's the appetizer for the thing to come. But at least a little bit, there is some drama here with some of those positions, especially when you're talking about replacing some of the guys that have graduated. There's a lot of wide receivers that have left, obviously, including Travis Hunter, if you want to count him as a wide receiver as opposed to the cornerback. And now with Augustave gone, an opportunity to maybe see some running backs. And again, when it's not full contact, but you still like to be able to see the burst, the speed, guys hitting the hole, and the quarterback competition gets underway. That's probably only one that I look at really, Chase, in earnest, that I do think happens, because even right now, even in the spring game, the accuracy, the quick releases, the ability to hit guys on the move, these are all going to be stuff that Pat Shurmur, that Deion Sanders, that everyone that's working on this team are going to spend time looking at and saying, hey, given the fact that it's such a big decision between two high-profile guys, we're going to use every bit of data, every bit of information. This does matter for Salter and for Lewis.
Yeah, and I think they're going to end up showing them off a little bit. I think we're going to come away from spring ball and say, oh, Julian Lewis and Caden Salter, they both look great in the spring game, because that's
it's nice when you're not worried about getting clobbered.
Yeah, and usually
you look a lot better.
I don't think they're going to see too much of the DJ McKinneys and the Colton Hoods, but yeah, I think they're going to show them off a little bit. We get to see Julian Lewis's accuracy and those types of things, changing arm angles, which we've heard a lot about during spring ball as well. So I think they're going to try to show off these quarterbacks. I'm also excited to see some of these wide receivers. I'm glad you mentioned that. We've heard about Joe Williams, the Tulsa transfer a lot. Quanell Farcon, the true freshman, it seems like his name gets dropped quite a bit. So they have some weapons here. Omarion Miller, a guy that it seems like he's been pretty healthy throughout spring ball. I don't know how much we're going to get to see him in this spring game. They might try to hide him a little bit, but he's a guy that's always to watch. And now that he's back to being healthy, I'm excited to see him as well. So I think they're gonna let them air it out a little bit, and we're going to see some things from Caden Salter and Julian Lewis.
It will be fun. We're looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to breaking that down with you. We'll hope to do that, is sit down with you next week and let you know what we learned, what we didn't learn, and what we're looking forward to. But here it is this weekend, the black and gold game. Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders jerseys get retired by the Buffaloes. And you know what? Maybe as Deion Sanders is fully aware, all press is good press when you're talking about trying to get attention. And if there's one thing that Deion Sanders does well up in Boulder, it's get attention.
Yeah, he loves being in the spotlight, and the Buffs have been the talk of the town on social media so far this week, and he's probably going to keep that going up until the spring game.
I would think so, and certainly beyond it as well. We'll keep an eye on the transfer portal and everything else, but that'll do it for us today. Thanks so much for catching the SCO show. Danny Bailey is in the booth making all of this work. Thanks for all our friends at Peckish that make things work out. And if you're buying Resolute Brewing, either one, north or south, make sure you stop by, pick up that SCO show Buffalo Blonde Belgian Ale on tap at both those locations, or at 38, number 38 at 35th and Chestnut in Rhino. You can also catch me there at Mile High Sports Today every weekday as well with the new Mile High Sports studio that we launched down there. Go check that out as well. But yeah, we have our own beer too. I mean, come on, get on board. It's going to be a blast.
I need to get down to 38. I haven't seen all those taps yet, but I've heard I need to try every single MHS beer that they have on tap.
Yeah, and we're just getting started. We're just getting started here as well, and maybe the spring game. But of course, the season never ends. That'll do it for us. For Chase Howell, I'm Shawn Drotar. Thanks so much for joining us on the SCO Show by Mile High Sports.
Let's go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs.